Welcome to the Big Mistakes in Real Estate podcast with your host, Isaac Ocean, bringing you the best advice and the biggest mistakes so that you don't have to make them. And today we are bringing the heat with our next guest. Brandon Talbot has been in the years for 15 years up there in Toronto, Canada, and we are going to be talking about teams and real estate. Is it a good idea? Or is it a bad idea? And we're about to learn one man's experience, and it might sway your opinion right after this.
Everyone makes mistakes, but these mistakes can cost you thousands in commission. Are you a real estate agent? Then listen up and learn from the Big Mistakes in Real Estate podcast with your host, Isaac Ocean.
So my main job as a podcast host is to scour the internet and find guests that are going to bring the biggest mistakes in real estate so that you guys don't have to make them. So we are coming to the show with somebody who has 15 years in the business from Toronto, Canada, and he was on a team and had a couple things happen. And we're going to be bringing the heat today with Brandon Talbot, and he can be reached over at GTA, like the video game, GTA Home Guy on all social media. So if you have more questions and want to reach out, he is an amazing person. He will respond to you. Very cool. And I want to say a personal thank you for being on the show. Welcome, Brandon.
Thanks so much, Isaac. Thanks. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we had a little bit of technical difficulties before this show because, as my audience knows, I am a realtor and not a technical guru. So we are having no video of Brandon. You will be able to catch the video on YouTube of me, but it's going to be, me talking at you. But we're going to be doing the best that we can with the technology we have. So if the audio is kind of crappy, guys, I apologize, but listen for the content because it is so worth it. So, Brandon, I'm pretty big about jumping straight to the meat and potatoes. So I'm going to ask you, Brandon, what was your big mistake in real estate?
Well, the one that kind of marred me the most happened in year two. I'm a second generation realtor. My mom was a realtor for about 7 years or so before I got in. So getting into the business, I really focused on making sure I was proficient because I'm one of those people who has to know everything so that they can be confident. I think a lot of people will resonate with that kind of mentality. So in that, I didn't really feel that I needed training and coaching and mentoring and that sort of thing. I was definitely able to lean on my mom's understanding if there was something that I came across that I hadn't yet, discovered and really piled over kind of thing.
So your mom was in real estate.
That's it. Yeah. She was actively practicing real estate as well, and in the same city, all that sort of stuff. So it wasn't a case of, I had nobody to go to. And that kind of brings me around to what my mistake was in looking for a team. I didn't specifically go looking for a team. I didn't realize teams were something that you could seek out and that sort of thing. I got approached.
Can you explain for the audience what a team in real estate is? So, because some people don't know what that is.
It's a good question. The real estate teams, they can be formed partnerships of some degree, but most times it's a top-down approach. There's a team leader who then will, take a large chunk of your commission every time you do a trade, whether it's sourced from them or from somebody else. So there's definitely good team structures out there, though they're very rare, and you'll hear more about that. But basically, on a team, you have everything going towards the upper end. And so I'm going to toss the name out there that I've kind of dubbed it pyramid teams. Kind of
I love that name, pyramid teams. That's so good.
Definitely unfortunate that it relates so specifically to it. But basically, it is a pyramid scheme. You get people under you and they give you their money, and that's kind of the crux of the whole thing, unless it's a fair and equitable team, which, like I say, there are good teams out there, few and far between, unfortunately. So yeah, As far as the team situation that I had, I was approached by a broker of the brokerage that this person who wanted to start a team belonged to. They said, "Hey, could we get together, have some lunch, discuss options with this agent, because we see you've been doing well in your first year, and we just would love to see if there's an opportunity here for you." That agent promised the moon and the stars as far as how much business they were going to give me. And for me, it was, I had sold 13 homes in my first year, which, it's not phenomenal, but it's not bad. And in that respect, I thought, you know what, if I could just be more consistently busy, I would love to just be busier. You know what I mean? If he's going to keep on filling my plate and I'm just going to be running off my feet, awesome. It'll give me more experience. I'd rather do twice the business for half the money so that I could gain more experience at that point. So that was kind of the draw, you know what I mean? That was the piece that made it super intriguing to kind of explore further.
So walk me through a couple reasons why people might join a team besides yours, because most people join teams for a much different reason than you were joining a team. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, certainly. A lot of times newer agents, I've coached newer agents and found that a lot of them think joining a team is a really good idea, which kind of led me to this this exact topic that we're talking about. But the biggest reasons I've found is security of, having somebody with you through the process, somebody that you can lean on their information and their guidance, as well for being fed leads. You know what I mean? Getting leads is the hardest thing that a lot of realtors have to go through just to eat. So they'd like to have it a little bit easier, and there's that little bit of implied. I actually had one agent I was coaching that he was joining a team after being in the industry for about 5 years, but very, very casual approach to the market for him. And he was joining a team willing to give any of the business he generated just because he wanted to get more consistency. And that one I kind of admire. They're basically hiring somebody to be their boss and accountability, which is unfortunate that he couldn't have found that in his own, even his own sphere, somebody to hold him accountable to activities. But, that's, like I say, that's another reason, right?
And what about for a brand new agent who is just fresh out of here? They join one of these agencies that have a bunch of teams, Keller Williams, Century 21, anybody who has teams are brand new and they walk in that office. Talk about what they're looking for and what the draw is for a brand new agent for teams.
Yeah. So as far as, the team draw usually is based around education. You know what I mean? Learning, being able to also have somebody hold your hand and guide you through the process. And for those of you who might be just kind of looking at real estate versus being in it and already making the mistakes you're trying to avoid, one of the things that you can look at is that teams aren't necessarily going to be a need long term. And that's kind of something that we'll get into a little bit more, I believe, is just the fact that you feel when you get started that you need somebody to hold your hand. However, after a few months, you're pretty much going to get it if you're doing business. It's not the value that you get from it. It's kind of like, mortgage insurance in Canada anyway, where, the value is always covered under the mortgage insurance, but the premium's reducing, so your value is reducing over time as to what that team should theoretically actually be providing you if information and learning is kind of what you're looking for. So the other thing for new agents is just stability, because a lot of people entering the industry don't really realize they're opening up their own business. And so when they find out, they go through any courses that they have to go through, they're like, okay, well, what do I do now? And teams can kind of help give them that stability of, this is the plan, this is what you're going to do, and this is how we'll make you a success, So it's an attractive pitch, a very attractive pitch, but there's a lot of barbs to watch out for that can snag you with teams, like we'll definitely definitely be getting into deeper, right, Isaac?
That's exactly right. And I'm a big on summarizing and kind of saying what you said back to me to make sure that everybody understands. So I'm going to kind of repeat back to you. And if there's anything else you want to add more, let me know. So if you're a brand new agent, you don't know what you're doing, and you're going to walk into the office and say, where do I start? Now, these teams are going to come in and say they can basically be your savior. They will take you through all of the ropes. They will show you everything with the contract. They will be able to get over the hurdles that they know and that are going to be along the way. And that is all well and good. And that sounds really nice. And so does that happen?
That's the crux. The whole issue hinges on, are you able to trust that person? Can you trust what they're going to say? Because here's the biggest thing, and when I found out the hard way, when my broker, so as I mentioned, I'll take you back to that lunch real quick. That agent was promising me leads. They saw that I kind of just shrugged off the mentorship and the coaching and that kind of thing that they're trying to promote. He was a salesman. He saw what intrigued me, and then he kept pushing that button. Hey, I've got so many leads, it's just overwhelming, blah, blah, blah. I got to get rid of them. I'm just losing the business, blah, blah, blah. Cool. That was my button of intrigue. And the unfortunate thing is, in the contracts, there's no quantifiable, they delivered their end.
Whoa, you're jumping ahead of a couple steps. What contracts are you talking about when it comes to teams? Are you saying that I have to sign a contract to be on a team? And how long is that contract for? Like a couple months?
Now, it really varies depending on area and whatever. I haven't heard of a contract that's less than a year. A lot of them go more than a year, 2 to 3 years. And that's under the guise of they're going to invest so much into giving you the moon and the stars and making you a great agent that costs them so much, and they've got to try and earn a little bit back on the back end. Invest in you up front, and then you'll pay off at the end. It's kind of what
which makes sense.
Position that like.
Right. That makes sense that they're going to put in all this investment of time and energy to train you the way, and I love this part, the way that we do it, because everybody else does it wrong. Yeah, okay, that guy making over $1 million over there is doing it wrong. Okay, I guess you got it right. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, because I actually got pitched for a couple teams whenever I was over at Keller Williams. And now that we got the contract, so we have, you've never seen a contract less than a year. Now let's talk about how some teams split the commission between all the agents, because a lot of people don't understand that. Some teams have 2 people on them. Some teams have 10 people, 20 people. So how does that commission split work? Can you talk to the audience a little bit about that?
Sounds good. Yeah. In my experience, and to be very clear, I have tried more than that one team in the early days. That was just the worst. But basically, all the contracts have a similar thread of the agent joining under is basically directly under the team leader. Okay, so that might be a couple of people if they formed a partnership and then brought other people on underneath of them. But whoever it is, whoever the head is, whatever that looks like, they will take, generally speaking, 50% of any business generated. It could be your mother that's buying from you, and they will take 50% of that. So that's the biggest kick to the wall that you'll find somebody with the audacity to say, hey, you know what? I'll take half of whatever you make. So
well, I did show you where to sign, Brandon. You're welcome.
It, right?
And that's really all, in my opinion, that's really what it boils down to, is when you first are a new agent and you look at all of the contracts and all that goes into a deal, and you just don't understand the workflow. But there are multiple videos on YouTube. Brandon's going to give you guys a resource for a link that you can read a guide to all of this stuff too. There's a ton of resources online and out there. And honestly, my biggest kick in the teeth was, I thought whenever I joined, and I don't know anybody else's experience, I can just tell you mine, and I'm going to be honest. When I went to Keller Williams, that was the first brokerage I went to. My broker, I didn't even know who my broker was for the first 3 months. And that is not an exaggeration, because I didn't understand that a real estate agent and their broker should have a very close relationship. You should be able to ask your broker, hey, where does this client sign? You should be able to ask your broker, hey, I have this issue with client over here. How do I solve this problem? And you do not need a team for that. That is a total BS, made up, whatever. You do not need a team to get help in real estate. If your broker is not going to step up to the plate and help you, move. Move brokerages. So sorry, I took over a little bit there. Hit a little bit of passion.
No,
you got me. You touched the button.
I'll take the soapbox from you because I'm going to ramp up right where you left off.
All right, man. It's your turn. Go ahead.
Oh, boy. And quite honestly, everybody, the biggest thing that I'll put it to you this way. If you were going to become a superstar agent, let's just say for a second, that may not be what you think, but it's going to happen. You are going to be a superstar agent. I'm going to make you filthy rich beyond your wildest dreams. Now, how much would you pay for that education? How much would you pay for that learning? Would you pay, if they're telling you that they're going to make you 100, 200, 500,000 in the first couple of years, are you willing to pay 250 of it to them? Or do you think you could take $250,000 and buy yourself the best education? Because one big thing with the educators in the team, these are all realtors. These are people. They get up, they put their pants on one leg at a time. They're not rock star teachers. Even if they're doing things well, they may not be able to teach worth a darn. And the biggest thing for me that I learned, because after that experience and the way I've always sought knowledge was to find great people at the industry and find out what they do. Now, when I did that, I found common people who were, in the industry for as long as I now am, had forgotten how they did it back then. I would ask, what are your tips, your secrets? How are you doing this? And they would tell me what they're doing then, when they had arrived at success, not what they had done previously. And that holds true for a lot of the teaching that you'll get in teams. They basically go on, and it seems like they're going to train you and teach you to be amazing, but they're not necessarily good teachers. So I'd rather pay whatever it was. For me, it was way too much for my experience, and I would have rather really paid that to some sort of real education, something proven. So
that's very, very, very true. Yeah, they take, and it's like normally it's 50%. I don't know. I've never been on a team. I don't know every single detail of them, but I know 50% is pretty typical in any team. That's basically what it is. Yeah, right? 50%?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So now tell me, we got to finish the story, all right? And I'm about to hit the commercial button, so don't talk it right away. But we're going to get back right after this commercial, and Brandon's going to talk about how all those leads that he were promised, did he get them? How much money did he actually make on a team? And we're going to do that right after this.
Are you learning? Good, because that's the point. But do me a favor. Subscribe if you have not already. And if you're feeling really frisky, give me a review on your favorite podcast player. Now back to the show.
All right. Thanks for that, Brandon. All right. So we're back, and let's dive in a little bit about, how much money you actually made on this team and how many leads you got and how busy you were when you started with the team.
Sounds good. Well, I'm just going to preface this with, again, I was going over for the leads and for the big volume promised. And in my first year, as I mentioned, 13 transactions, not shabby, but not great. But it was kind of my benchmark of what was expected, how I would rate the team experience. So what I ended up doing was I transferred over, and in the first couple weeks, I put together 6 deals. Like, I was on fire. I'm like, holy cow, this is amazing. Until I had the crappy realization, excuse the term, that those were all mine, and I hadn't yet had any leads given to me. That was a couple weeks in, and I was just lighting it up. So that kind of led me around to, hey, I've now given you what equates to half of my prior year's income. Can I get a lead from you? Can I stop being the generator of all these leads? And unfortunately, I'm going to fast forward that part of the story to just say that I never got a lead from this guy. I was stuck in a contract, and that was horrible that the contract was being enforced by the broker. But at the same point,
in the contract, it did say that you were going to get leads, or was that out of the contract?
So that all goes back to quantifiable obligations. My quantifiable obligation was to give 50% of my income. The quantifiable obligations can't really be, in real estate, you can't promise you will get X amount of leads or the leads will be of X quality. So they basically say something that alludes to the fact that you will get leads as available. So there's no promise to deliver.
That's so grimy.
I know.
Oh my God.
Isn't it? Yeah. And here's the thing, because people will promise leads as well, and maybe they will put something in front of you that's quantifiable, saying I will give you 80 leads a month, and they may. But I've been in other team situations. You see, I'm a real learner. I like to learn things the hard way, as you might be able to tell. But I was in another team that said they would give me leads, and they gave me leads, and I was cold calling these leads all day, every day, and never turned a transaction out of that. And it went on for months. And I found out that these were old leads and recycled even amongst the team. So they were old dead leads that they said, hey, this is a name and a number, give them a call. And so really, again, quantifiable as far as quality or quantity, it's not something that's specified in any contract that I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of team contracts. So in that respect, yeah, unfortunately, the promise can be there, but it's not in writing. And even if it is, there's not really a lot that you can be held to. I even had an exposure to one guy who was trying to pitch a team to me, who said that he would guarantee I made $100,000 that year, or he would give me a $10,000 bonus.
That
Sounds
seems
great,
pretty amazing, actually. What happened with that?
Generous fella. Well, I didn't make $100,000 that year.
Generous fella.
And I didn't go with his team. That's probably why. But the reason I didn't go with the team was it wasn't really a $10,000 bonus. It was basically a rebate of accrued fees that I would be paying him throughout the year, and that's where the $10,000 would come from. So he basically would be out no money if he failed on his promise. He would just give some of the money he stole from me back.
Wow.
Good.
Yeah, if it seems too good to be true, I mean, in anything that's especially true, but there are people that I could only classify as predators in the real estate industry, and they do happen to prey on new real estate agents in particular, but then when they get the right button to push for the right realtor who knows their stuff and just wants to be more busy and have that accountability. But then if you're not getting leads, every lead that you have, you're literally giving away 50% of your income.
Yeah.
So you gave away close to $15,000 for nothing.
That's it. And that was in the first couple of weeks. So
now, if that's not a big mistake in real estate, I don't know what is. But I've got a couple more questions for you. So there are people out there that are going to hear this podcast. And I don't want to say that all teams are bad, because that's honestly not the truth. Just like Brandon had said before, there are good teams out there that actually do what they say they're going to do. Now, leave these guys with a little bit of hope that there are teams out there and what to look for in a team. If you're like, you made up your mind, I am joining a team, no matter what kind of team would you try to steer people towards? What are they looking for?
Basically, one of the key identifiers is why they want you. If you look at the sequence of how things should happen, if they're taking on a brand new agent, that there's a reason for that, you know. So if they're looking at you as a brand new agent and there's not much of an application process, that's what would be a big red flag for me. What I would look for in the positive, however, is track record, as well as don't ask the person who's talking to you. Find out who the rest of their team is and call them and say, listen, completely off the record, what's your experience been like? They're trying to recruit me, because a lot of people are stuck in situations that they will be honest with you about are better not to get into, but for them, they have to be there. You know, thinking about one team right now very vividly who everybody hated the team. Like the morale was so insanely low because of the team leaders, and they just stayed there because they were making more than they figured they could on their own. Because here's another kind of gotcha with this, is that any business you do under a team generally contractually belongs to the team when you leave. So you cannot contact those people that you were trying to foster. You can't, if you had a client who you found and they were your client and your investor client and they were going to buy more properties, you couldn't take them with you, or else you could be liable and sued. So looking for getting testimonials from people who are on that team candidly would be a good thing, as well as seeing if there's a way to protect yourself from getting no to bad leads, if leads is the reason you're going for it, or look into some of their training. Because if somebody's saying, I'm going to train you in everything, if that person is a really, superstar realtor, they're going to be too busy to hold your hand all the way. So what kind of training resources do they have? Do they have videos that this is our course material, this is how we present things, this is where you'll gain, insight and that sort of thing. Also looking for their availability to actually kind of shepherd you, come along on your appointments to see and make sure that if the business could be had, it'll be gained. Because a lot of the benefit for new agents having a senior agent that is their team leader is the fact that they can bring somebody who knows how to close the business and make sure the deal gets landed, and you kind of gain a little bit of an advantage in the sense that you may lose it if you don't know that you are losing it, whereas a more experienced agent can see and kind of turn the conversation the way that it needs to go. So availability and making sure that any people on their team are very satisfied, as well as the fact that if there's some way to quantify what their obligation to you is, and check and make sure that's legit before.
Very good. Because there are people out there, and I know you're out there, and you just made a choice, or you just got on a team, or you're in a contract for 3 years for a team, because there are contracts out there just like that, 3 years. So I don't want to tell you that you're in a terrible spot or anything. We're not trying to beat you guys up. We're just trying to make sure that people are aware of what teams are, and to make sure that they're not getting caught out there with their pants down, because that's a big mistake in real estate. So this was an amazing interview. Is that it, or do you have anything else that you want to add?
Well, the only thing is that contract that's tying you on my first mistake, the big one, was for 3 years. I had other realtors who were giving me more help than that person ever would have for free. So know that realtors can be a very helpful community. Myself, I'm always open if people want help or to accelerate their business or step up. There are realtors like that out there who will do it completely for free, or let you informally join the team, leave the door wide open. You're here as long as you want to be. Look for people like that. Those are good people.
Those are good people, and I'm where I am at in my real estate career because of the brokerage switch that I made from one of these big commercial brokerages all the way down to a small little boutique brokerage, and I get all of my questions answered. Everybody in my office, yes, we're all independent agents, but we work as a team. Like, if you need something, let me know. We're all in this together. This is hard, and this is a very lonely business sometimes because it's easy to just be alone all the time, and that sucks. It just sucks. So I know we have another huge resource that Brandon sent to me yesterday. He wrote this 10-page in-depth articles/story that you can get. It'll be in the show notes below on the podcast. It will also be on the show notes on YouTube. Brandon, one more time, can you tell the audience where you can be reached at?
Okay, guys, any social at GTA Home Guy, GTA like Grand Theft Auto. But yeah, that's where you can catch me. Just reach out any way you want.
Very cool. And again, Brandon is open to helping other real estate agents. Obviously, he came on this podcast. If you got any value from this whatsoever, Brandon took time out of his Saturday, from his family, from his personal business to come and share this story because it's that important to him. So if you want to reach out to him and say, hey, thanks, I heard your story, you affected my decision, that would be really, really cool. Brandon, this has been absolutely amazing. I'm going to jump over here to the next commercial and give me 2 seconds.
On the next episode of Big Mistakes in Real Estate.
Guys, on the next episode, we are going to be going over open houses and why they are should be your main source of buyer leads because they're free. So if you have the time to do open houses, we're going to be talking step by step how to run an effective and perfectly executed open house with collecting leads, and we're going to connect it back to Wise Agent so you put this thing on a drip campaign so you have from start to finish how to get how to do open houses, how to get the leads, and how to put them on a drip campaign so you are always their realtor of choice. And that's on the next episode every Monday at 4 o'clock. See you then, guys. Thank you again, Brandon.
You're welcome.